when you fall in love and you get married and you have a year of bliss land, la la land, inevitably you lose your boundaries. And at some point you have to get your boundaries back. So there was a book by John Bradshaw, there we go, I did manage to remember that one, that's on the family. And he talks about that, he talked to a whole bunch of couples that had been married over 40 years. And what they all said was that the first part of love, you lose your boundaries. And then somewhere around a year to 2 years, you have to claim your boundaries back. And so you actually pull back, you know, because you've kind of merged into an intimacy unit, and that intimacy is no longer yourself, because you know when you get married, it's like it's no longer me, it's a we thing. So it's no longer me, it's we. And at first that's so wonderful and fabulous, but then you feel like you lose yourself. Like you're like, wait, what happened to me? I've lost me in this mix. I've got to get back to me. So the Hermit card represents that pullback, that I need to fall back and I need to get back to myself and find out who I am in some way. So what you do is you pull back, you restrict yourself, you limit yourself, and inwardly, you know, you pull back a part of yourself. And this card is a light that's shining into the darkness. It's the symbol of Virgo, which is a very grounded earth energy sign. You've got the three-headed dog of hell. So remember Harry Potter, right? This is where they get that from. It's like the demon dog. It's an old mythology. The demon dog of hell, and so the gatekeeper to the underworld. So and then you got over the egg again with the snake wrapped around it. And if you look at this image, it almost looks like the egg moving through the uterus. And those little filamentous things that move the egg along, right? And then down below is a sperm searching for the egg. And that, you know, there's this guiding light, like something is guiding the sperm to the egg. There's something that is seeking out the egg. And there's a field of wheat. So it says, when you're willing to go into the darkness, you actually find tremendous abundance. When you're willing to go in and explore yourself, there's tremendous awareness and abundance. And here's this monk that's in red, and red is the color of
the root chakra.
Root chakra, which means you need to reclaim your base. So again, you let go of me and you went into we, but in doing that you lost your base, and so now you're trying to reclaim your base for yourself. And shine that light into that darkness. And he's got this gray beard, which is about wisdom. And so this is a beautiful card, but it says there's abundance within. You have to face your demon dogs of hell. You have to face the things that you're afraid of, because now you start to wake up and recognize that the person that you have married or you're in love with or you're living with, or however you want to see it, isn't really going to fulfill you. So you start to recognize that no one else can fulfill you. At first we have that illusion because of the Lover's card that if I'm with this person, I'm going to feel perfect. If I marry the movie star, I'm going to have a perfect life and I'm going to be totally happy. But you recognize that there's a selfishness, a narcissism, a youthful naivete that thinks that someone else can actually totally fulfill you. And inevitably, when you go there, you realize they're human too, and they've got their mistakes too, and they've got their issues too, and they've got their hang-ups, and they've got problems, and they got their karma, and, well, they can't help you any more than you can help them. And you start to wise up. You start to wise up, and you start to go, I can't expect them to fulfill me. I need to find out how to fulfill myself. And so you need to go within and stop projecting that onto them. Well, I would love you if you would just do this and this and this for me. I mean, how childish is that, right? You know? So there's that place where it's like, you know, it's just we are who we are. We're all doing the very best we can, and we're all distorted in different ways, and I can't put that expectation on somebody because it's unfair. So this is that maturing process to start to be responsible for yourself. So this is considered the first of the dark cards, okay, because you suddenly really have to take a good hard look. So even though this card is a good card, it's a beautiful card, and you're shining a light into your own darkness, it's that exploration that, wow, I have darkness in here. Like one of my favorite examples of this card was that I had a boyfriend that I was engaged to that I didn't marry, and we were on a houseboat. And up until the point of being on the houseboat, I had never heard my mother come out of my mouth. And we were on this trip. And all of a sudden, my mother's like strained, fearful, overwhelmed voice came out of my mouth, right? And all of a sudden, I was like, and I was like, oh my God! And he's just like, and what it was that when I was a kid, we had a boat. And so I suddenly popped into being my mother on the boat, right? And so that awareness is that hermit card. It's like, that's just horrifying. It's like, I don't want to do that. And he looked at me like, who are you and what'd you do with Suzanne? Kind of thing. And it was like, oh dear. And I would, but it was like, okay, I have to go clear my mother. It's not his responsibility to clear my mother, but that awareness, it's that awareness again that I have some inner work to do here to clear it out. And it's not that my mother was bad, it's just that I have to kind of change how I've got her wired in my nervous system, because I believe that everyone knows how to do everything perfectly, and my mother has absolutely beautiful, incredible qualities, but I could have integrated some of the distortion also. So I want to take all the best, leave all the worst, and it's my choice, but I have to be responsible for that. So I have to go in and go, how did I get there? How did that come out of my mouth? What mechanism caused that trigger? What was that trigger? That's the Hermit. Okay, so then you go to the next card, and the next card is the Fortune card. So this card looks really simple, but again, it's actually not as simple as it seems. So again, if you go to the back of the book on page 142, what you've got is a Sphinx, which represents the Pharaoh's noble rule and leadership. It represents the sun god, and it's the strength of the lion and the wisdom of the sun god, and it's a balanced outcome. And so notice the Sphinx is at the top. So there's this balanced outcome at the top. And then it's a chariot wheel, which again we saw in the chariot card. But it's like a roulette wheel. It's like a constantly moving, changing thing. So in a roulette wheel, it's a little bit of a anything goes. I mean, pick red or black. You don't know which way it's going to go, right? So you have to make a choice. And then you've got Hermanubi, which is the ape. So Hermanubi is the ape at the bottom. And Hermanubi is the ape of shaping and the initiating of new ideas. He is the monkey trickster. He represents the needs and desires that drive us to take chances and try new things. So notice that the monkey is pulling on the wheel. So the monkey's hanging on the wheel, trying to pull the wheel, and the Sphinx is trying to be balanced, and the monkey's pulling on the wheel, okay? And then you've got Typhoon, which is the reptile man, holding an ankh in one hand and a hook in the other. So Typhoon is the crocodile of destruction and retrospective. He is warning that in change there is breakdown. He has a reptile's tail showing that breakdown often comes when sexual energy comes into play. Sexual energy is chaotic energy and disrupts in order to create new life. He shows the cycle of birth and decay. Destruction can take place eventually when we are not aware of our greed and longing. In the seeking of fortune, there are hooks as well as positive spiritual lessons. When we allow our desires to override our consciousness, then we throw unconscious hooks at others. Typhoon begins the movement with his willingness to choose to begin the breakdown. Okay, so you've got some interesting symbols in here. So this is change. Okay, so needless to say, when I got the awareness that my mother came out of my mouth, what did I decide to do?
Change.
Change! We are so not doing that pattern again. It's like, okay, I have got to do something different, and you're just so horrified that this unconscious thing reared its head from the darkness, because the Hermit card is the first of the dark cards, that you suddenly go, okay, we're going to change. And so I start rearranging the wheel. I start pulling on the wheel in different ways to make changes happen. So this color is purple, which is the third eye, indigo. So it's that intuitive place, that intuitive aha, that I might not be as clear as I think, and I might not be as stable as I think or as aware as I think, and I suddenly got a wake-up call about it, and because I can see it now, I can make a change. So my joke always is that when people say, well, I know my blind spots, I just start laughing hysterically, because you don't know your blind spots, they're blind spots, right? If you know them, they're not blind spots, right? I mean, it's a real simple thing. So this card says, you just found one. You just found a blind spot, and now you're like, oh my gosh, I have to do some work on this, and I'm responsible for it, so I'm going to make changes, because I won't be able to bear with myself if I keep doing this pattern over and over again, okay? This is that roulette wheel. There's change, there's lightning bolts, which again can say, you know, change can come quickly. So when you first get that aha, it's like being in a personal growth workshop where you suddenly have a breakthrough process. And a breakthrough process is like, oh my gosh, here's this stuck place. The breakthrough process picks up the octopus and throws it out the window, and you're like, whew, I feel so much better. And so you feel significantly better after a breakthrough process. But I can tell you from doing a lot of workshops that then I spend the next 10 years finding the sucker over here and the tentacle over there and a little beak over here, right? So I start finding little bits of things in other places, and that's a little harder. But this is that point where it's like, oh my God, it's an octopus. Ah! Okay, and you put it to the side and you've done a chunk. Like, just the awareness is 70% of changing something. You know, having that awareness and being alert to it is 70% of fixing something. And that's this card. So this is that first huge initial change that's good. So when somebody gets this card, it's really good. It's a really, really positive change that no matter what, your awareness is going to cause change. Okay? So I like to think of it like that Star Trek movie where, you know, they had to move this thread thing just a little bit off its trajectory to save that planet, so they just barely have to move it, because over time it goes further and further away, so you just have to bump something sometimes, but then the trajectory is huge later on, right? So right now this is that bump, you know, so it's just that bump that everything shifts. Okay, so then from there you've made this change, and so you get the lust card, which is now feeling pretty good. So we're feeling pretty darn good at this point. That's great. Now this card has the symbol of Leo at the bottom, whereas the change card, the fortune card, actually had Jupiter at the bottom. Jupiter is the planet of expansion, money, and abundance. But now we've gone on to Leo, and Leo is about passion and life force. In other decks, this is the strength card. So it's not called the lust card, it's called the strength card. And so if you look at this card, there's a lot going on in this card. So again, this is where, you know, we're going to go to the back of the catalog a little bit because I want to hit all the details. Okay, so this is considered the Scarlet Woman. So this is a really sexy girl. Okay?
What page is it on, Susan?
It's on page 142. So this woman appears to be drunk with the ecstasy of passion and lust. She is seen as the Scarlet Woman. This is a woman whose passion and desire control her and all those around her. She shows rapture in the divine dance of passion and play. Her inner animalistic behavior is intoxicating and exudes from her in waves. Okay, so notice that she's languidly leaning back, you know, she's like, her hair is flowing, you know, so she's in control. Like, notice she's really got the reins, like she's holding on to this seven-headed beast. Now the seven-headed beast is a lion, an angel, a saint, a poet, a warrior, a bacchanal, a satyr, and a lion serpent. Okay, so the Scarlet Woman rides a seven-headed beast with which she controls and reins into her own passions. Notice she controls and reins into her own passions. This animal is part man, part beast. She is handling the beasts while allowing them to have their passionate nature. She controls them by allowing them to flow.